I'd like to call the Joint Special School Building Committee to order. We're at the Nashua High School North Lecture Hall. It's Monday, October 4th, 2021, and this is a special meeting. Mr. Smith, would you call the roll? Oh, Linda's here?
Yeah.
I want to give her let's give her a chance to sit down. Okay, so when you're ready, if you would call the roll.
Alderman Dow.
Present.
Alderwoman Wilshire.
Mike's on.
I didn't hear. You hear? Oh. Alderwoman Clay.
Here.
Alderwoman Liu.
Here.
Clerk is here. Ms. Raymond.
Here.
Ms. Johnson.
Not here.
Ms. Bishop.
Here.
Ms. Brown.
Here.
Ms. Gilio.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. Would the clerk please read the prayer, and would Heather, Mrs. Raymond, do the pledge?
Stand up for the... Okay.
Almighty God, we have the high honor and the serious duty to manage the educational affairs of our beloved city. Fill us, O God, with the spirit of unity and understanding, which enables us to face our multiple problems with a serene mind, with justice and charity for all, so that any and all decisions made by us will always be for the betterment and greater happiness of all our fellow citizens. So help us, God. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Let the record show that Alderman Wilshire has arrived. Okay, a couple things. The transcriptionist called me after the last meeting. She cannot hear you through your mask very well. Bring your microphones very close, even if you want to lower or raise your mask while you're speaking, so that she can understand what's being said. If you don't want to lower your mask, you have to talk up and talk slowly, clearly. Okay.
Also identify yourself.
What?
Also identify yourself so she knows who's speaking.
Yes, it's hard to tell through the mask. Okay, this evening we're going to have two separate subjects. One's Franklin Street, and then we have to take some actions on the new middle school. But we'll keep those items separate. So the first item, oh, Sean, did you want to, or anybody from the school department want to speak?
Nothing at this point.
No? Mr. Parker? No? Okay, so the first item for discussion is the Franklin Street School. And this evening, we have an EEI presentation on ESSER funding for Franklin Street first. Sean, do you want to introduce our guest?
Sure. So right directly across from me is Mike Davey from EEI and Energy Efficient Investments, Inc. The school district hired EEI a number of years ago for performance contracting work. It was supposed to be district-wide at that point, and we decided to embark on that with them after a competitive process. And the first task was to evaluate and develop a project for the two high schools. So that is currently underway. In fact, it's nearing an end, which will be done by this calendar year end. And we hope for that to save both high schools quite a bit of money in energy costs. I don't remember the exact, maybe you can just at the top of your head say a little bit more about that. But then, so Mike's going to then talk about Franklin Street and the fact that the school district has put in for the grant through ESSER funding for $5.2 million. As you know, ESSER funding is primarily for ventilation and that sort of thing that improve the environment for the kids and staff. Mike?
Yep, so Mike Davey with EEI. Our company has been working in both Nashua South and North High School, improving the ventilation and air quality, as well as doing the LED lights that you see here today, which I'm glad they're all working during the presentation. Those projects were approved in 2020 with the goal of reducing the fossil fuel and energy usage by about 35% at both campuses. And it's structured in a tax neutral way so that the energy savings will help pay for the air quality improvements, as well as the lighting and electrical upgrades. When we've been working with many districts throughout the state to look at applying for and utilizing ESSER funding. ESSER was part of the COVID response in two forms that the federal government paid to help school districts respond to the COVID-19 pandemic as well as recover. And working with Manchester school districts, we are currently upgrading the ventilation at several of the schools and at Keene High School as well. We've done preliminary assessments of all the schools in the Nashua district, and Franklin Street really rises to the top of areas where the ESSER funds can make the most impact to improve the ventilation. The building was originally, originally it was manufacturing space, then it was converted to a Christian high school that went defunct. The city took ownership of it, or the school district, and it has a 1970s chiller and a huge air handler that doesn't meet the airflow recommendations that ASHRAE put out to respond to the pandemic. So working with the school staff, we applied for and received preliminary approval for $5.2 million of ESSER funds that can be allocated to the school. This is money that was designated for Nashua, and it was specifically, you have to seek out different projects, and this project, Franklin Street, was granted conceptual improvement by Department of Ed on Friday. Just a little bit about us. We're a local engineering and energy efficiency company located in Merrimack. We are currently working on these types of projects with Portsmouth, Nashua, Hanover, Manchester, John Stark, and Keene School District. Here's a picture of the existing 1970s chiller in the basement of Franklin School. For anyone who's into the history of buildings, this is kind of a unique one, and that there's manufacturing. So the amp loads, the electrical system is this huge capacity with non-digital measuring devices. It really is a hodgepodge of the history of buildings, just located in this one place at Franklin Street. This is a picture of the air handler that serves the entire building. It's located in the basement and then ducts up. That big fan, that big pulley that you see is what, when the fan is running, that spins around and pushes the air up throughout the building. It does not have dehumidification or the recommended filtration, which is ASHRAE, which is a MERV 14 or better filter that is recommended to respond to the pandemic. The system is at its end of life. So this system is about 50 years old. ASHRAE says that you're supposed to get about 30 years out of ventilation equipment when it's well maintained. So this system is about 20 years past what is recommended. And we do think it was actually non-functional for a while because the district had to spend some money just to get it up and running for the start of school this year. The building lacks what we call a modern control system. So right now, it's sort of similar to a house. There's a zone pump and you can either do the right side of the building or the left side. It doesn't have individual classroom controls like this building does. The electrical systems, again, are also near end of life. One unique challenge about this building is that in the wall joints, there's actually asbestos, so that anytime you have to open up a hole into the, to put in a new ductwork, you do have to remediate some asbestos. Because of these air quality concerns, we wrote up and said, is this an acceptable use of ESSER funds to improve this building? And the state said yes. What we look to do is improve the ventilation and add dehumidification using ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 funds, removing the asbestos where possible, so that issue is taken away in the future, putting in modern HVAC controls. And with ESSER 2, there is a deadline that this money has to be spent by October of next year. So again, this is probably a this summer project. ESSER 3 has an additional 2 years where you have to complete it. Again, some of the proposed improvements would be to remove all of the 1970s electrical ventilation components and put 3 air handlers with roof-mounted condensers, 1 per floor, individual room heating controls, dehumidification, upgrade of electrical systems, and removal of asbestos. Utilizing federal funds does have some different components that we're not used to in New Hampshire construction. So there's a thing called the Davis-Bacon Wage Act. All workers on the job must be paid that rate. That's not required when you're just using city or state funds. There must be a thorough ADA review of the building, which Harriman has already started preliminarily. There has to be a historic building review prior to using federal funds, where we send off the drawings to the state historic review committee, which you can't email to them, by the way. They still are only historic people like stamps. We have to do an ASHRAE review of the existing condition now, ASHRAE meaning the air quality and ventilation standards, and then we have to do a procurement review, which the state had already preliminary reviewed EEI's procurement and said that was acceptable. There are any subcontractors, we are required to solicit bids from minority-owned businesses, women-owned businesses. So there's some federal strings attached that aren't typical to New Hampshire standards, but when you use federal fund, we have to do that. Some of the things they're now coming through, so there's a huge amount of things that fall right into the ESSER allowable expenditures. There are also some things that that Sean can talk about more that that should be considered but aren't necessarily allowed to be funded by ESSER. Those include ADA and bathroom upgrades, fire egress, cosmetic improvements like new flooring and painting, hardscapes like basketball courts, pavement, and other finishes. So ESSER can go a long way in improving this building, but there are some other considerations that, as a team, we started to review as well. Sean, any hand it back over to you?
Okay, thanks. I guess any questions for Mike first before we...
Mrs. Liu?
I just want to know the difference between dehumidification and air conditioning.
So from an equipment standpoint,
Well, if you're in the room, how is it going to feel?
So typically, full air conditioning, we provide individual controls for each room. So for example, this building has a full air conditioning system with a chiller, and each room has a valve that modulates and can provide pinpoint control. For dehumidification, we typically, it's zoned on a per floor basis. So that it's the same exact equipment on the roof, but typically the cooling set point is determined. This building has 3 floors, so there'd be a top floor, bottom floor. It just differentiates that level of pinpoint controllability. Yep.
Any other questions? Sean?
Okay, so on your agenda, we have a proposal for Harriman for architectural services. If you don't mind, I'm going to jump to the third item there on the municipal bond, prospective municipal bond. So I handed out a spreadsheet, one-page spreadsheet. So I took a look at the, working with Mike, I came up with the ESSER funding items. You'll see that's at the bottom half of the page. It totals the 5.2 million that we've already requested. The top half of the page are prospective other expenses. And no, it's not on, but now it is. So, just for the TV audience, we talked about we have 5.2 of ESSER funding, and the top half, I haven't given that total yet. But these are the non-ESSER, so the non-ventilation or things related to ventilation expenses. In the past, I've talked to you about the fire department's requirement for emergency egress so that we can have children on the second floor at Franklin Street. There's a cost to doing that. That cost was actually vetted with Harvey Construction, so I feel good about that number. A lot of these other costs came out of the study that Harriman did approximately a year ago when they did an architectural look at the building before we purchased it. So feel pretty good about those numbers. Mike actually suggested a few other ones to add in, such as the millwork, which is cabinetry, that sort of thing. We actually did a fair amount of painting this year, but if we're doing demolition and cutting up walls and whatnot, there'll be a lot more painting to come. Choice we'll have is whether or not to build a handicap ramp at the front of the school. We don't have to at this point, but it may be a choice that we have. And so the hard construction costs, again, hard construction is actually, we're attacking the building and doing work at that's a little bit over $3 million. Then you have what we call soft costs. So you're paying the construction manager, paying an architect. We are going to have abatement. There's no question about it. We have a lot of asbestos flooring, asbestos floor tiles. We have some carpet remaining. We suspect asbestos mastic underneath that, if not additional floor tiles. We're going to have to do that abatement. Anytime you're constructing something, you're going to be doing some testing, whether that's of steel or if we're putting footings in the ground for those towers, you got to test the concrete. And then commissioning, anytime you're doing a HVAC system, you should commission it with an independent contractor. But potentially, a bond would be $4,380,000. So that's what we're looking at this point. I'll pause there, see if there are any questions.
Any questions on the Phase 2 scope? Bonding first. Mr. Parker? Oh, okay. Change my glasses so I can. No questions on the potential bonding? Alderwoman Liu? Oh.
It's okay.
Thank you. Is the 4.3 million the total of what was described as the non-ESSER qualifying costs?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
And the additional work under the ESSER funds is the 5.2 million.
Correct.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to get that date again. You said the ESSER 2 must be completed by when?
October
2022? Okay. Thank you.
And then 2024 for the remainder.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, when you speak, if I don't mention your name, mention who you are so the transcriptionist can get the name right. All right? So, oh, hold it. Heather.
Sorry, it's Heather. I am just curious about the timeline as far as how all of this work will happen with students in or not in the building. Because we do have preschool on the first floor, and we have the Brentwood Academy, I think, on the third floor right now.
Sean?
Well, that's, fortunately, we have a group of experts amongst us between Mike Davey and Harvey Construction. They can lead us through that. My thought is a lot of the HVAC work, so in particular the ESSER funding would be next summer. Some of the stuff could be done during vacation breaks. Second floor, for the most part, is uninhabited, although we do have some staff on there, so there's some preliminary work we could possibly do. And then for Harvey, it may actually be we don't have the same constraints to bonded money, obviously. I mean, so some things can take multiple years to complete. So if that has to go into a second summer, it can. We've done phase construction or construction with people actually in a building. There are some things we can do to facilitate that.
Mr. DeBois, did you want to?
No, I agree with Carl DeBoer, Harvey Construction. I mean, I agree with what Mr. Smith was saying. I mean, to get this work accomplished, first of all, it requires a set of documents, putting it out to bid, lead time on all the materials. So it's going to lend itself, based of us being in October right now, probably lends itself to what we call a summer slam, like you've seen at Pennachuck and what have you. We try, when the students are out, try to get as much done as possible. Certain things like the egress towers that flank each gable end of the building could be done at any time. It's not going to affect the students in any way, shape, or form. Other things, such as any millwork, any flooring, particularly on the floors that are occupied, being the first and the third, is not going to happen during school time. It would have to happen, like I said, during the summer. So looking at the scope, looking at the value that Mr. Smith assigned to this, I think, it lends itself to trying to get it all done in one summer if possible, just to hold the cost down. That would be my approach.
Follow up, Mrs. Raymond?
Thank you. I just had one other question, and that was regarding the time frame for the bonding. Are we looking to, I guess the question is, when would the alderman be looking to start the bond, and when would the payback period be?
As soon as Harvey Construction verifies and validates the numbers, comes up with a number, and then I will put in the legislation with the approval of this committee for the bonded money. It typically takes a minimum of 6 weeks. It has to get a first reading. It'll have to go to budget, which I'm the chair of. And then when it gets through budget, it goes back to the full board for final approval, and we're good to go.
And then the last question I have is, how will this affect our plan for renovating the other schools in the district? Because we had I'm going to say a pencil plan of how we were going to continue to update the schools, because they all have to be updated every so many years. And so it was the middle school project, and then I think we were looking at Maine Dunstable and Birch Hill. We're now squeezing this one in. What does that do to the other projects?
Sean?
Yes, actually overheard a conversation between Mr. Donovan and Ms. Johnson, the chairman of the Finance and Operations Committee. So the administration's plan is to come to November meeting with a proposal for spending for the ESSER funds. So we have ESSER 1, 2, 3. So I think 1's pretty much spoken for. We're working on 2 and 3 now. So Birch Hill, Main D would be in that pile of money that we'd be requesting funds for. And of course, as you said, we have other schools that are in the queue as well. But Main D, Birch Hill would be the next 2.
We had several discussions on Birch Hill and Maine Dunstable, and because they're open concept, that falls into how do we improve the air quality, airflow. So I will leave that to the Board of Education until they throw it to the joint special.
If I could, I've also had discussions with Mike Davey about that, particularly, again, it's ESSER funding. So that's something he specializes in, particularly with the ventilation systems. So we've thrown together some preliminary numbers, actually. So we'll be ready to talk about that.
So, Mr. Smith, do we need a motion to move forward on the ESSER funds and ask Harvey Construction to validate the numbers you have for the bonding?
Well, I guess I had a question back to Harvey. To validate the numbers, you need something from Harriman, at least a conceptual design.
That would be nice.
Is that not correct? So, which leads us to the other item on the agenda, which is Harriman's proposal for architectural services. If we approve this, then Harriman can get to work on putting that conceptual design together and get that to Harvey, I think a week from tomorrow, right? Just kidding. As soon as they can, and then we will then have a number. Is that how it should work?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so, Alderwoman Lou?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before we leave this page, I just had a couple of questions, if I could.
Sure.
I think that in the capital improvement schedule or report that we got from the capital improvement committees, there was a school that was noted as being in dire need of ventilation, I think, and I think it was Charlotte Ave. Does that ring a bell to anyone? I'm just wondering where Ms. Raymond made me think of that, and I wondered what this does to that need. If it's not ringing a bell.
Don?
I can speak to that, yes. So in addition to Main Dunstable and Birch Hill, which probably are highest priority schools,
Okay.
we have a project scheduled for next summer. We've already contracted with the architect to do ventilation and the back wings at Charlotte Avenue, Lead Street, and Fairgrounds.
Okay.
So it's new ventilation with air conditioning in those back wings. We're also looking at doing the middle wing, which includes the library, art, and chorus rooms.
So,
That's the other, my recollection with capital improvement is that's the other
Thank you.
project we had in the queue.
yeah, so other than Franklin Street and the middle school project, those other schools don't fall under this committee yet, maybe never. It might be just run by the school board or school department. So it's okay to talk about them, but we're not taking any action on them.
And just a follow-up on
Sure.
just another question. I believe I recall that work has been done on the stairway when we bought the building in preparation for the two ages of students to begin school there. And am I correct? Or was that just something that we identified as needing to be done at some point?
It's something we identified as needing to be done. In fact,
Okay.
the top half, the Phase 2 scope has ADA stairwell upgrades.
Okay.
We decided not to proceed with that at this point because we don't have children on the second floor. So one of the things, for example, we'd be doing is there's a handrail that goes up. It's made for big kids or adults. We have to put a handrail beneath that for little kids. We haven't done that yet because there's no kids on the second floor, and there won't be until we put those two egress towers on either side of the building.
Okay, thank you. And just one other question.
Yes.
The main entrance handicap ramp, just wondering, is that really how much, is it a special one, or was surprised at the ticket price? I know it's only $100,000, but I just wondered.
It's constructed from steel, so that gives you some indication. It was something we worked with Harvey over the summer to design. We looked at building if you're familiar with my office, it's a kind of a monolithic concrete structure. So then you have to go down below frost lines and everything. Turns out we couldn't do that here because we have utility lines coming off either side of the main entrance. So the next way to do this was to put some piers in, so sonotubes and concrete, and then build it out of steel. That became very involved. Harvey worked the numbers quite a bit, and that's the number it came up at.
Thank you.
Any other questions? So we'll be moving forward, Mr. Smith, with Harriman and Harvey to,
Well, the other item on the agenda here is for the committee to approve the amendment to Harriman's current contract with us to do the architectural work for Franklin Street.
Right, so, of course, we have a contract with Harriman at this point, and we're looking to do an addendum to allow them to work on the Franklin Street piece. If there are no objections, I'd like to get a motion to approve the amendment to the professional services agreement with Harriman to allow them to do the work on the Franklin Street project, and the amendment, is the amount of $225,000. There's a breakdown in the back of the AIA document. We have a very thick AIA document with Harriman right now. This is just an addendum for the school.
Alderman Dowd, there's also another $4,000 in there for travel and incidentals. Would be $229,000.
Okay,
I'll make that motion.
so the motion was made by Alderman Wilshire. Any discussion? Mrs. Brown?
Mine's actually more of a comment. I wanted to, I'm going to support the motion. I'm probably going to support all these contracts because I realize they're kind of time sensitive and it looks like they're pretty far down the planning stages. However, I want to just express my displeasure at the fact that all these documents were hand carried today. And there is a lot of information. I'm seeing between the ESSER funds and bonding over $23 million in spending tonight. There's a lot to absorb all at once. So if I could, I don't know, I just am not really excited about that. I recognize it's very important, and I think they're really important projects, but this is a lot of stuff when you're talking about $23 million. So,
Yeah, we'll
thank you.
explain the things with the middle school separately and why they're urgent and why we have to act on them. But on the, on Franklin Street just coming together, and we need to get the architect on board so that they can work with Harvey so we can get a final price so we can go through for the bonding if you want to get Franklin Street open.
Thank you. I do recognize, that's why I'm saying, I recognize the urgency, but this is, if I had a question about any of this, I think there's 30 pages of information here to read through. That's a lot to read through in 5 minutes while you're listening to a presentation.
We'll
So,
explain, well, you just got them tonight. So, Alderman Clee?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to clarify, you said there was a $4,000, I'm sorry, Mr. Smith, a $4,000 to be added to the $225,000, making it $229,000?
Yes, on the back page.
Okay, I do see it there, yes.
Yep.
So when we vote on this, we're voting on $229,000. Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Any other questions? Alderwoman Lou?
I just wanted to say that I recognize I'm not sure, actually, shouldn't say I recognize the urgency. Because I haven't had a chance to review this information that I've received, I will not be able to vote in favor. Thank you.
All right, this document we're voting on right now is just an addendum to a contract that's about this thick with Harriman. All it's allowing them to do is do work on Franklin Street. The rest of the contents of their document has already been approved by legal. Obviously, they're doing work for the middle school project. So this is just to allow them to add to that. Doesn't change any of the terms and conditions of the original contract.
Well, it seems like something we could have this one here, you mean?
This one.
Uh-huh, okay.
That's what we're voting on, this one. It's an addendum to Harriman's contract,
Yeah,
so they can
I need
start.
to read through something if I'm going to vote on it. It's just the way I've always been. Thank you.
I will explain the urgencies. All right. So the motion on the floor is to approve the AIA document 8G 802-2017 amendment to allow them, Harriman, to work on Franklin Street. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Okay,
No.
all right. Now, We have 3 items that are going to be explained by Harvey. This is for the new middle school, steel, roofing, and site.
I got this. Carl DeBoer, Harvey Construction. I do apologize. We're putting you in a tough position tonight. I understand that. I've been working with the Joint Special for probably 5 years now. To back up a little bit, if you recall, some time ago, we were trying to get this middle school open in September 23, based on everything that's transpired between the purchasing of the land, design, what have you, where we're at today, and I'm trying to maintain a schedule of September of 24. Currently, right now, the marketplace, as we've all experienced, the rise of inflation and what have you, we are getting bids holding quotes for only 5 days. Some of them call us if it's ours, and we'll tell you what our price will be at the time. So I actually asked to parlay onto this meeting the 3 things that we need to get awarded to try to maintain schedule. And that's why we're here. I know I'm asking an awful lot tonight. But originally, we were supposed to start this project in March. And now we're trying to get the last permit we need in the hopes of being able to start this project a few weeks from now. We put the site portion of this out to bid. We have 3 qualified contractors that can do the work. We're recommending the low contractor, with the hope that we're going to get this AOT permit in short order so that we can actually get the road cut in and get a lot of stuff done this year, so that come March, if we have a mild winter, April, if we don't, we can actually start foundations to this job that was supposed to have already been started. So that's why we're here on site work. Steel, we have been told, and you'll see in the spreadsheet, that we went out to bid. We received 6 prices. All of them are telling us that steel joists, which is part of the framing members that we need for this job, and metal deck, if we order it in September, you will have it when you need it. If you don't, it's not going to come. Deliveries right now are being pushed out till June. Ordered in September, you will get your material in June. That's how backlogged there is right now. And part of that is there's a number of things going on. Amazon has a $1.5 billion expansion program going. They've chewed up, I've heard, anywhere from 30 to 35% of the current steel truss and joist market. Plus, the market's very busy right now. As everybody knows, we got through COVID. The problem that everybody's having is maintaining pricing and delivery. I ordered a piece of switchgear for a job about 2 weeks ago. They said it 18 weeks to get it. 2 weeks after they got the order, 3 days ago, we were told 33 weeks. That's the market that we're playing in. Harvey Construction does not create the market, but I owe it to you folks in the city as your construction manager to bring the information forward. So because of the timing, again, of where we are and what we're doing, we've been scrambling, trying to find out where everything is. So you're looking at a site award tonight. Granted, you haven't had a chance to review it. I totally understand that. But that's to get the guy under contract so that when we get the permit, we can start right away. Steel, only because I'm going to need steel next summer. And if I don't order it in September, I hate to say this, but I'll be frank with you, you're not going to move in September of 2024. Just not going to happen. There's not going to be enough time. The other one is roofing. As crazy as it sounds, roofing, insulation, and material is got an extended lead time. If you're fortunate enough to get enough material to warrant a small job, we've been told by some guys that they can't even get the fasteners to screw the insulation down. That's the market we're playing in. So yes, I apologize. I truly apologize, because I know the rules. I know if I was sitting in your seat, I would have said the same thing, honestly, because you have a fiduciary responsibility. I am not trying to pressurize anybody. I'm looking at these three packages to simply maintain our September 2024 deadline that we're trying to get you in for. That's why you're here tonight. I'm telling you, my team was working on this up till like 2 o'clock this afternoon, trying to get all the answers that we needed to make sure that what we're presenting tonight will hold. So again, my apologies. If you, I mean, you folks can do what you want. I mean, you're a voting public. I understand all that. If you wanted to postpone, you could do that. I'm just telling you, there are ramifications, and I'm just being forthright with you and as honest as I can possibly be, that September 2024 sounds like a long time away, but when you get a project of this magnitude, you don't build it overnight. So that's why we're here. So with that said, unless there's any other questions, I'll ask my compadre here to bring you through the packages that we have in front of you tonight.
Carl, also, steel could escalate in price significantly in the short term, and the bid is only good for what, 10 days?
10 days. Now, like I said, you can look at the spreadsheet. Take steel, for example. We got 6 bids, and we're recommending the low bidder. But if you look at the value of the spread from the different people, I hate to say this because I prefer to buy American, but we're getting it out of Canada because it's cheaper. As crazy as that sounds. So if you look at the spreadsheet, which we'll get to in a minute here, and you look at the spread between the low and the high, the scope, and we looked at 2 or 3. We didn't go to the high person. We didn't have the time. But we looked between the primarily the first 2 low to make sure that they had everything that we wanted, everything that's needed. And if you look at the delta between the first and second, it's not bad. You start looking after that, and there's a considerable spread. And part of that is I get updated periodically. The market is still hot. It's still being escalated. I got a notice the other day that metal studs will see an increase of 10% in September, 10% in October, 10% in November. That's 30% in 3 months. We had, based on our reputation, we had some roofers that we tried to get them to look at this that are good contractors that said, Carl, I will not put my firm in jeopardy of carrying a number that I don't know what they're going to charge me down the road. You know, I just don't know. I can't take that chance, which I can appreciate. I thanked them. So there's been a lot of work done behind the scenes. Steel has jumped dramatically. As I started to say, you may see it in your own life in terms of if you're doing any renovation at all, you may not get what you want. The only thing that has actually come down in the last, well, this really started ballooning back in March. The only thing that's really gone the other way and come back down, I mean, we would normally pay $1.85 to $3.25 a 2x4. We're paying $10 for a 2x4. We're paying $75 for a sheet of plywood that you normally would pay $28. So that market has since tailed off. I'm hoping that the metal stud industry will see this and say, we're not going to be selling metal studs if we keep raising the price, and maybe they can do something. But I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what holds in the future. I can only tell you what we're being told to give you the information. Ultimately, this is your decision to decide. So as your construction manager, I'm warranted to bring this forward to you to make a decision based on the information that we know of at the time.
Mrs. Bishop? Brown, I'm sorry, Brown.
It's all right, happens all the time. Thank you. I really appreciate you addressing that. And I guess my only question is, and I'm sure that probably this will be addressed, this bid pricing is guaranteed, or are we going to be looking at, once it gets down the road, a bump up?
There's a legal term called force majeure, and I'm not a lawyer, but I'll give you the gist of it. I mean, we saw something happen on Pennachuck where the escalation is so far out of the norm that nobody could ever figure it. And legally, you can't, you're not going to put somebody out of business because of it. With the firms that we're dealing with here, I'd like to think not, that we're not going to see it. When you think about everything we went through in fairgrounds and everything that we're under contract under Penachuk, there was only 2 people that came in. What we're looking at is to get them under contract as soon as possible. You know, if you guys approve this, that'll be taken care of. I mean, if it escalates another 100%, so to be honest with you, I'd like to think not. I mean, based on our contracts, based on what we talked about for escalation, them knowing the schedule. But again, steel's a little different because they're actually going to go out and purchase the steel. Where the risk would be because they're fabricators and erectors, they're going to go out and they're going to buy the steel joist from another manufacturer because they don't manufacture it. They'll fabricate the steel, they'll cut it, they'll put the connections on, they'll do all that. But the metal deck and the steel joists are purchased through another manufacturer. Once you purchase the steel and the order's given, then that's locked down. Until the truss and the joists get into manufacturing, then you're hoping that the number that you got is going to suffice. So I know everybody says, is it a guaranteed maximum price? Yes, I'd like to think it's a guaranteed maximum price. Site work is not as bad. That work is, I mean, they do have some products to purchase, but it's primarily heavy equipment and labor, machinery, that type of thing. Roofing is another one that there may be, you know, the roofer doesn't, he's got to go purchase it. So, I mean, a little while ago we were hearing, we'll give you your price when we deliver it. You know, I'm hoping that's not the case here. So based on the size of the order, that they would do something to maintain that pricing, cost pricing that we have. It's just a sign of the times. It's not us. Every contractor's going through it right now. And like I said, if you go to Home Depot and order a window or order a kitchen, and you may not get it right away. You know, it's just the nature of the beast of where we are. I hope that answers your question.
All set, Mrs. Mayor?
Yes, thank you.
Alderwoman Lou?
Thank you. So do we have all of the bids that actually came in?
No, we got all of the bids that we went after on these.
That what?
We have all of the bids that we requested for what we're presenting.
That's what I
There
meant.
were 3 addendum, and some PRs that we're still trying to chase the last of the changes to make sure that we have everything. So I don't even have a GMP to present to you. Typically, we present a GMP and then move forward. We're in the process of trying to get that done before the end of this month so that we can tell you where we are and where it's going.
I just wonder if possibly in a situation like this where we're going to be voting on something that is delivered to us immediately prior to the vote, that even if we received the quotes as they came in, I noticed that some of these came over on the 27th of September and the 30th.
No, we've been going back and forth with these people. That spreadsheet that you're going to see is a vetting tool for us to make sure that every subcontractor prices the scope of the work that we want, that we need. And a lot of times there can be cross-pollination on trades. Sometimes the electrician might carry, for example, duct smoke detectors. They go in the duct work. Sometimes the electricians will carry them, sometimes the mechanical guys will carry them. We like to make sure we buy everything once and only once. So we vet out, we develop the scope that we want them to bid on. And if it's not clear in their proposals, we'll go back and ask them to send us a revised bid incorporating what we're asking. So you may see some fluctuation in dates, but it's primarily getting the information that we need onto the spreadsheet so that we can make a recommendation to you folks.
Follow up?
Thank you. I'm not really understanding what you're saying because I haven't looked at the paperwork.
No, I understand.
So,
I understand.
I just want to explain that when I come here, I come here to show some responsibility, and I can't.
I totally
do that
appreciate your
without
stance. No,
looking at-
I don't harbor, you have a
had the
fiduciary
opportunity.
responsibility. I get that. I totally get that.
I haven't had the opportunity. I mean, I'm sure you're very trustworthy, and I could take your word for it, but I don't think that's what my role is here. Thank you.
No, I appreciate that.
So, just to reiterate, if we don't take action, we stand to have a significant price increase and not have a school open in September of '24. I think that has more ramifications in a number of areas. I took a quick look at the documents, and I'm used to looking at these types of documents, and I don't find the issues with them. We've been having conversations about steel and roofing for some time now, and they have to work with the people doing the bidding and try to get it down as much as they can and get things solidified, make sure they've selected the right company. And with all the years' experience that we have with Harvey, and I feel very comfortable with the bids. Any other questions? Alderwoman Lou?
But I think we have to at least review the documents we're given when we vote in favor of something. You have the benefit of, you've looked at the paperwork before. I mean, you've had the benefit of that. So,
No, I just got these as
Same time
I thought
you
you
do.
said you had the chance to review it. Okay, I got it. Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions? You want to take them one at a time, Ken?
Ken?
Ken Lemarier, Harvey Construction, Project Manager. Again, I want to echo Carl's message. I think he did a great job of explaining where we are and what we're dealing with here. I know it's definitely not easy to take all this information in. So I think a lot of you are familiar with this process. I'll take you through each package, and just feel free to jump in anytime and we'll address any questions. So each package in front of you, there are 3 tonight: roofing, steel, and site work. The packages are set up where there's the recommendation letter, and then there's the bid tabulation sheet, which is the vetting sheet that Carl mentioned earlier, and then behind that are all of the individual bids for all of the trade contractors that we received. So I'll take you through, I guess we'll start with the first one. Again, these are all for the new middle school. The first package that I'll take you through is the letter of recommendation for the structural steel package. These are all of these bids were based on the Harriman construction documents, the 100% construction documents. We did receive 6 competitive bids, as noted earlier in the meeting. We're recommending the lowest qualified bidder that we vetted out. It's a Canadian company out of Quebec, Canada, called Norgate. Their scope of work will be including to furnish all of the anchor bolts and embedded items to receive any structural steel for the entire project, and to furnish and install all the structural steel framing, columns, joists, and decking for the project. That is for a total contract price that would be locked in upon your approval for a total of $6,425,000.00.
Are there any questions? Alderwoman Clee?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one quick question. When looking in the spreadsheet, the very first column that says design development, is that the price that we originally thought? Is that what that means?
That's where you can see the spread of just how inflated the cost is for material.
How
So,
much steel's gone up?
that was what we had originally
Carried.
felt it would be, and then it went up to the 6.4.
Correct.
And there are some that are as high as 7.8 million, so. think-
I can tell you, a little over a year ago, steel was going, if somebody asked me, I'd say it'd be roughly $3,500 to $4,000 a ton, fabricated, purchased, fabricated, and erected. And these numbers range from $7,000 to over $1,000. $10,000 a ton, excuse me. That just give you a sense of the order of magnitude of the escalation that we're seeing in the marketplace right now. And I think I'm very thankful that we got 6 bids, because it does show you that 6 different firms, what they think the value of this project is worth. In true disclosure, if you look at the spreadsheet, there is a proposal request for some items that were not shown that is not included at this time. We're going to carry a line item in the GMP for that work when we get the final pricing on that. That was just impossible. So this is everything but what we call proposal request 01. So that is not included. When you see the GMP estimate, you would see the number that you're going to see tonight. We will have a line item that says PRO1 for those missing items, and we will secure a number from this firm at that point in time. There just wasn't enough time to lock it all in. So I'm just being totally honest with you.
Alderman Clee?
Thank you. Just actually more comment than question. I appreciate the fact that this is over doubled to what we expect, and we've always been hearing 30% increase, and this is well over 100% increase of the cost, so I do appreciate it. And I also want to say that to those that are listening, our job at times is to have to deal with an emergency such as this, and I consider this an emergency. If we wait much longer, I can't even imagine what that price could possibly go up with. So I appreciate you bringing this, and I, for one, will be voting today.
Well, thank you. And in true disclosure, again, I can't tell you because DD documents are exactly what they are. They're design documents. They're not the finished construction documents. So I'm sure some of this cost is just final detailing, the final design that came out from Harriman Structural Engineers. I don't have a value between the two, but the vast majority is escalation.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Mrs. Raymond?
Hi, thank you. I'm just curious about whether or not there's been time to look at how this affects our bottom line. Because we had a number going into the project, and we have a set bonded amount. So have we had a chance to take a look at our design documents and find where we're not going to spend $3 million to make up for it?
We're in the process of trying to formulate that ourselves right now. There's 30 different trades, 40 different trades that we're trying to get through to see what the total bottom number is going to be. And like I said, we're still waiting for a few of the bids, revised bids, to come in based on what we've already started doing and to wrap up the last of these changes that we know about.
Okay.
That's out there. So I don't have a number. I said that earlier. I don't have a GMP for you. I'd like to believe that not every trade's going to go up by this value that you see here.
Yeah, we don't have a GMP yet. We have contingencies. We finished on schedule, under budget at Fairgrounds. We're only halfway through, not even halfway, probably through Pennachuck. We have contingencies for that, and we have a contingency for the new middle school. Until we have a GMP, we won't know where we're at exactly. I have a feeling we're going to be spending a lot of our contingency, but we'll see where we're at that point.
Okay.
Trust me, if I did not have to present this tonight, I wouldn't be doing it to you.
I definitely got that sense. Absolutely.
I wrestled with this for...
Yeah, you wanted to wear a flak jacket, but...
Right.
No, I appreciate it. I mean, I appreciate the trust that's been established. I don't want to break that trust. It's been a great relationship with the Joint Special in the city of Nashua. And I just got to tell you, if I could delay this until we get a GMP, I'd do it in a heartbeat. I just don't want to run the risk of not being able to get the steel when we need it to get to the end game when we look at it. Because so our revised schedule, as I said earlier, our revised schedule, when we knew 2023 was out, we revamped this thing and we sat down with Rick and Mr. Dowd, Mr. Smith, and a few others, and looked at the schedule and saying, this is contingent on releasing site, releasing steel. I didn't know at the time I'd have to be asking you to release roofing at the same time.
Yeah, Sean and I had discussions, and not passing these tonight will provide more harm to the district than the actual middle school and not approving them. Any other questions? Alderwoman Lou?
Thank you. I see an annex for COVID-19, and it looks to me on page 5 that it only allows the Norgate extra time if a force majeure exists. Is that correct?
Yes.
Only extra time?
Oh, that's what we try to do. I mean, again, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know when the scale tips enough to say that, that legally they have the right to protect themselves. I just don't know that.
Right, okay, but there's no part of the annex COVID-19 that gives them automatically allows them to raise their prices. We just can't put them out of business. Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is they have the ability to protect themselves contractually, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, thank you.
If things happen beyond their control, they have some recourse.
And it's got to be,
Yeah.
what we're dealing with is so far from the norm. I mean, construction, been in it now 41 years, but construction, typically you'll see an average of 3 to 5%. I'm sure Mr. Davey can attest to what I'm saying. 3 to 5% on average. I mean, what we're seeing primarily since March is just astronomical. It's just astronomical. And it's across the board. I mean, sometimes oil gets expensive and then all your plastics, petroleum-based products will go up. I mean, this is clearly across the board. This is about every sector. There's very few that I can say, I mean, concrete material has been pretty flat, but after that, I mean, anything in brass, copper, steel, drywall, you can't even get mineral wool insulation right now if you wanted it, if you had it on your job. It's just not available. It's just not available.
Any additional questions? Seeing none, I'd like to,
Mr. Dowd?
yes?
So going to, this is a different contract. Never mind.
Okay. So right now, I'd like to have a motion to award a letter of award for structural steel to Norgate of Quebec, Canada, in the amount of $6,425,000. Mrs. Raymond?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mrs. Raymond to approve. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Ken?
Thank you, Alderman Dowd. The next package will be, this is the site work package, and this is including all of the utilities, the scope of work that they'll be performing, again, based on Harriman's construction documents, 100%. All the site clearing and prep work, earthwork for site and building, all the asphalt paving and curbing. Miscellaneous site improvements that includes all the signs, metal bollards, retaining walls, all the mixes, the plantings, the lawns. I mentioned utilities. There are also 3 allowances included in this bid package, 2 of them for ledge and 1 for unsuitable soils. Again, any unspent allowances are returned to the project as a savings if unused. So we did receive 3 competitive bids. We're recommending the lowest qualified bidder, Severino Trucking Co. Incorporated of Candia, New Hampshire, for a total value of $6,800,000.00.
Any questions? Mrs. Raymond?
Yes, I have a question about if this site work includes the finishing work when it's done, or this is just preparing the site?
This is wholesale, so include everything.
Total package,
Okay.
athletic fields, everything.
So then my second question is, how does this fit in with the Conservation Commission's request regarding using natives and
This
no
bid-
mow stuff?
This bid follows in line with the changes to Harriman's drawings, right?
Now, we're all set. I'm not worried about it. I think if anything, we might see, I'm hoping a slight credit in the future once it's all filtered out, because there's about 4,000 less impervious. So 4,000 of paving or something that's not required versus adding some culverts and what is that pool called? I forgot the word you used.
A vernal pool.
Vernal Pool.
The
We all
vernal pool,
Not a vernal.
Hibernaculum.
Hibernaculum. Thank you. Couldn't think of that word.
that's hibernaculum, what?
Yeah.
I believe it's hibernaculum.
And that's for the little salamanders, right?
I think it's their breeding ground that they create inside
That's
the
the
road.
main wetland that's up north of the property, and basically it's using natural materials, so it's not a lot of expense, because it's like, fallen trees, and trust me, we're gonna use the Conservation Commission to help us figure out what to put in there.
Okay, great. That was really my question. I just want to make sure that we're focusing on native plants and things that will help to protect the flora and fauna that's already there.
Yes.
Yeah, whatever was decided with the Conservation Commission to get their approval will be documented by Harriman's group. And like I said, it'll get rolled into the GMP. That's not part of this, but based on what I was hearing, what took place, I think that number will come down, not up.
Mr. Willett?
Jamie Willett with Harriman Architects Engineers. Yeah, I was going to kind of follow up on what Mr. Dubois just said, that our documents aren't 100% completed for construction with those few finessing changes from that came out of the Conservation Commission. However, the scope is not astronomical, and I think as all Mr. Dubois had mentioned, it's some of it is net savings, and there may be some adds, but we're hoping that it'll be in that ballpark. So,
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, I will entertain a motion to approve the letter of recommendation to award for site work to Severino Trucking Company, Inc. of Candia, New Hampshire. What? Oh, I hadn't mentioned the amount yet. $6,800,000. And Alderwoman Garthwaite made the motion to approve. Is there any further questions? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Aye.
Ken?
Thank you. The last package I'll be presenting tonight to the committee is for the roofing package. We received 3 competitive bids. We'll be recommending Academy Roofing Corporation of Rindge, New Hampshire. All of their scope will include all of the roofing systems that are shown on the Harriman design documents, all of the wood blocking at roof curbs, expansion joints, and perimeter of the roof around the building, all of the roof and smoke hatches that are shown on the drawings, the solar tube skylights. These are the skylights that are that were installed at Fairgrounds and will be installed at Pennachuck as well. I think we highlighted them in the previous meeting. All of the walkway pads, so Mr. Smith's team can do the maintenance on the building safely, and all the aluminum gravel stop and metal fascia for the entire project. So with all that scope rolled into this one package, we're recommending, again, to Academy Roofing Corporation of Rindge, New Hampshire, for a total value of $1,722,400.00.
So not only is it important for us to get the roof on the building, but we can't put the solar panels on top of the roof until the roof's on. I thought I saw somebody there first.
Oh, it was me, but you answered the question just now. I wanted to make sure that this was going to be solar capable.
Oh, absolutely. Alderwoman Clee?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick question of what is it on the spreadsheet there when it says alternate and VE not totaled? What may I ask what that is?
Copy.
So typically, like in sometimes we have a VE is a value engineering. So sometimes during the design, Harriman and Mr. Smith and Mr. Dowd and Harvey will get together and come up with cost saving ideas. So this doesn't apply to this package because there were not any alternates or value engineering items. So that's just, I guess for this particular package, that's not applicable.
Yeah, value engineering is something we're looking at very seriously. If there are ways we can save costs, we will. All companies do that.
And
Yes?
And I appreciate that because I do remember we've had some alternates. We could go this way, or this way with different costs.
Correct.
And so on. So I do appreciate that, but I was just confused by this. So thank you so much.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Down here, Alderman Dodd.
Yes, Mr. Smith?
Yeah, I think I see it here. I just want to verify. So the warranties, the membrane itself is 20 years?
The 20-year total system.
10-year warranty, is that for workmanship?
I believe that is workmanship.
What you have on the spreadsheet,
Yes.
the summarizing spreadsheet. I just want to make sure the membrane's 20 years. I mean, typically it is, but
Yes,
when it
20-year warranty, manufacturer warranty.
okay, thanks.
comes to warranties and maintenance, that's his ballpark. Any other questions? Alderwoman Lou?
Thank you. I think I heard that the roofing, this roof contract is also, needs to be done tonight.
We need to order they need to order the material to get it into fabrication in the queue based on the time that we're looking for it.
Okay.
We are still waiting for the roofing on Pennachuck because of the delays. That's why we need to get this on order, so we'll have it when we need to put the roof on.
Because I see that the price is, the quote is good for 30 days, but the actual price will be applied at the time of shipment.
That's what I was alluding to earlier. This is what they put in for their price. The contractor's not going to know until that material is delivered what they're going to be charged. As crazy as that sounds, that's what that's what the distributors are telling the roofing contractors. They actually have people on what's the word I'm looking for? You may put in for, pick a number, 30,000 square feet, and you may only get allocated 5 because they're trying to keep everybody going. And you'll be waiting for the difference. That's part of what happened out at Pennachuck. So,
Thank you.
Any other questions?
if I may,
Yes,
Mr.
Mr.
Todd. To put people's mind to some ease here based on the marketplace, I think if you recall, on Pennachuck, we carried an escalation line item, which turned out to be not enough based on the marketplace where it is. We're taking a serious look when we finalize this, what we think we should have for an escalation rider in case it's needed, so that we don't have to keep coming back. If we don't utilize it, we don't need it, then it goes back to the city. So that's going to be a long, arduous thought process in terms of based on the marketplace. What number do we really need in there? So we don't have to keep coming back to you. We thought we had it on Pennachuck, but like I said, from the time we were pricing Pennachuck to where we are today, it's just been explosive.
Ken, can you explain alternate one?
Which one?
The one where,
It's under Academy.
I think that,
Page 2, I guess.
okay, yeah, so that's just if they go to a different product for the walkway pads. So that's not part of the price, so.
all right.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, I'd like to have a motion to award the roofing to Academy Roofing Corporation of Rindge, New Hampshire, in the amount of $1,722,400.
So moved.
So moved by Mrs. Giglio. All right, is there any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion
Aye.
carries. Okay. Anything else, Sean?
Oh, that's it for tonight.
Okay, thank you, everybody, for coming out on a special night for a special. I understand that the school board has a special on this week as well, so you guys are out all the time. Yeah. So thank you again, everyone, for coming, and thank you for the presentation. Oh, Mr. DeBoer.
On behalf of everybody at Harvey, thank you very much. No, I do appreciate it. I totally understand the situation we put you in tonight. And then we're going to try not to do that any more than we have to. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
Just need a motion to adjourn, I think.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, so moved.
So moved by Mrs. Raymond. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? We're adjourned at 8:14 PM.